Senior diplomats and defense officials of South Korea and the US condemn military cooperation between North Korea and Russia. They say it's a serious violation of UN sanctions. The officials met in Seoul to discuss deterrence against growing threats from North Korea. The senior officials also called on Moscow to show responsibility as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who is on a visit to Russia, was seen visiting an aviation plant in Russia's Far East region that produces warplanes and other equipment. The plant produces Russia's most modern fighter jets, which includes the Su-35 and Su-57. According to media reports, Kim also saw a demonstration flight of the Su-35. His visit to Russia's Far East comes as US officials and experts have said Moscow is interested in buying North Korean ammunition to use in the conflict in Ukraine, an arms deal that would defy global sanctions. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko is traveling to Russia for talks with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin. The central part of Lukashenko's visit will include discussions on international agenda, regional issue and joint projects in industrial and agricultural sectors. Previous talks between Putin and Lukashenko were held in June this year. Satellite images of a military southeast of the Belarus capital city, Minsk, appeared to show dismantling of tents in recent weeks, indicating the winding down of Wagner base. Last month, Wagner's boss Yevgeny Prigozhin and his top lieutenants were killed when a private jet he used crashed in so far unexplained circumstances. Images of the military base appear to show the gradual dismantling of tents in the camp. It remains unclear where the tents and the Wagner fighters are being moved to. Now, the Wagner group had launched a brief mutiny against the top army brass in Russia in June. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko invited Wagner to set up operations in his country as part of a deal that ended the mutiny. Turkey's energy minister has publicly questioned the need for a new natural gas hub that Russian President Vladimir Putin had proposed last year. The energy minister told a group of reporters that Turkey already had a well-functioning gas trading platform. Putin first raised the idea of creating a gas hub in Turkey for supplies to other countries during talks with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Ukraine claims it attacked two Russian patrol ships operating in the Black Sea and destroyed a surface-to-air missile system in Russia-occupied Crimea. The attacks, reported on Thursday, followed a day after Kyiv said it had carried out a missile strike that badly damaged a Russian submarine and a naval landing ship. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made special reference to the Crimea attack in his nightly message. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu checked on the repair and modernization of the Pacific Fleet's nuclear submarines. Shoigu also took part in talks between President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who visited two aviation plants. Shoigu checked the construction of a floating docking complex and how the fleet's nuclear submarines are being repaired and modernized. the defense minister stressed the importance of improving combat capabilities of helicopters and safety of the pilots. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has wrapped up his week-long state visit to China. While briefing the press before departing Beijing, Maduro said that the trip has made a significant elevation in China-Venezuela relationship. During the trip, President Xi Jinping held talks with his Venezuelan counterpart and announced an all-weather strategic partnership. US President Joe Biden on Thursday promoted his economic achievements and attacked far-right Republicans as the threat of a government shutdown still looms. Biden expressed how federal budget cuts would affect Americans weeks before the September 30th deadline to keep the federal government open. Now, the federal government would enter its fourth shutdown in a decade next month unless the Republican-controlled House of Representatives and Democratic-run Senate can pass a long or short-term funding bill and Biden signs it into law. Now, Biden also criticized Republican proposals to cut funding in education, infrastructure, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The Dominican Republic is set to close its border with neighboring country, Haiti, from today. This comes amid a conflict over the construction of a water channel from a shared river. Now, the Dominican Republic's president has said that the closure will begin from Friday and will last as long as necessary, with backing from the Dominican military and police forces. The Dominican Republic has a strained relationship with its neighbor and has tightened border security over the past few years. In recent months, it has deported tens of thousands of Haitians fleeing worsening gang warfare in their country. US President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, has been indicted by federal prosecutors in connection with a gun he purchased in the year 2018. This is the first ever prosecution of a sitting president's child. The charges include making false statements on a federal firearms form and possession of a firearm as a prohibited person. The two most serious counts carry maximum sentences of 10 years in prison and $250,000 in fines. Now, this fallout is speculated to be a turning point in the upcoming 2024 presidential elections as Joe Biden seeks re-election with his Republican predecessor, Donald Trump. US automakers and union negotiators representing the United Auto Workers expressed little hope that a deal would be reached to avoid a midnight walkout. The workers' union have been pestering companies to come up with better wage and benefit offers. The UAW has outlined plans for a series of strikes targeting individual, undisclosed US auto plants if agreements are not reached by Thursday evening. The union has a list of demands, including 36% pay raises over 4 years, cost of living raises, and an end to different tiers of wages for workers. Consumer prices in Argentina have soared 12.4%, the highest rate since February of 1991. According to figures released by the government agencies, the country's annual inflation rate has soared from 113% to 124%. Experts believe that the numbers will put the ruling centre-left coalition in hot water as presidential elections are scheduled for next month. The country is facing a looming recession and a weakening foreign currency reserve, while battling to salvage a $44 billion IMF deal. Thailand's Pita Limjaroenrat has resigned as the leader of the progressive Move Forward party. Even though his Move Forward party emerged as the largest party in this year's elections, his candidature was blocked by conservative lawmakers, and he was kept away from forming a government. The Harvard-educated Pita was twice denied by Parliament in his efforts to become Prime Minister. Now, he is currently suspended from the Parliament due to a court case concerning his eligibility to run for office. Villagers in some of the most isolated areas hit by Morocco's earthquake are still living in makeshift tents and relying on donkeys to bring vital supplies. This comes as the vulnerable people continue to wait for state aid to reach them nearly a week after the disaster, while the government-issued tents and military field hospitals have sprung up in some of the larger towns. Some parts of the rugged region are still surviving on donations left on roadsides by citizens. The government has said it is doing everything it can to help all earthquake victims. It also pledged to offer reconstruction aid of over $35,000 for collapsed homes and $21,000 for damaged ones. The Torkham border crossing between Afghanistan and Pakistan has reopened to pedestrians and vehicles. The border crossing was closed following a gun battle between border forces. Islamabad and Kabul have been in diplomatic deadlock since September 6th, when border guards opened fire at the crossing. The crossing is the busiest crossing for trade between the two nations. Traders on both sides complained that tons of perishable goods were lost because of the border closure. The death toll from the devastating floods that struck Libya's eastern city of Derna has risen to 11,300, while another 11,000 remain missing. An official from the Red Crescent societies in Derna said that many missing people were buried under the mud, debris, or washed away to the sea. The situation in the city of Derna, a port city in eastern Libya, is particularly dire, with the number of casualties expected to rise further. According to media reports, Derna's Emergency and Rescue Center has raised the state of emergency in the city to the highest level. Only rescue teams are allowed to enter the city currently. A search operation is ongoing after at least 70 crocodiles escaped from a farm during floods in China's southern city of Maoming. According to reports, the animals escaped through two gaps in the enclosure walls, which collapsed during floods caused by heavy rain. Local authorities have organized a search operation and water draining work. Reports suggest that as of now, 36 crocodiles have been captured. A luxury cruise ship that was pulled free after it ran aground this week in a remote part of Greenland with 206 people is now on its way for inspection. The Ocean Explorer cruise vessel has been stuck since September 11th in mud and slit in Appleford. Well, this is a national park. It was pulled free by a fishing trawler on Thursday. The Danish military's Joint Arctic Command said the ship would head to a port designated by the Danish Maritime Authority for a closer examination. The India Club, a historic London curry house with links to India's freedom struggle, will close its doors for the final time on Sunday. Now, this comes as the managers failed to stop it from being turned into a hotel. The club was set up 3 years after India's independence in 1947 by members of the India League, a Britain-based campaign group advocating freedom for India from the British colonial rule. For decades, the India Club has drawn regulars craving a masala dosa or bhuna lamb. Londoners of Indian descent have called it a home away from home. After Huawei released a new phone using cutting-edge technology, the US has been trying to keep out of China's hands. Republican lawmakers demanded that the Biden administration cut off all ties between Huawei Technologies and Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corp. and their American suppliers. Using a 7-nanometer processor that seems to be based on US technology, this Chinese-made phone has sparked discussion in Washington regarding the efficacy of United States' efforts to limit China's technical and military capabilities. Pakistan is struggling with Asia's fastest inflation, witnessing double-digit percentage increases. Now, this in turn has fueled a cost of living crisis in the country, and to deal with spiraling prices, many restaurants have increased prices or reduced quantities. The US-based fast food restaurant chain Subway, in response, has launched a 3-inch sandwich in Pakistan. The company says it is looking to tackle inflation in the country by providing value to customers.